All right, and we're supposedly live. We're just checking real quick to make sure everything's there. Does it show up there yet on the stream?
Yeah, it's showing up for me. We're good.
Good?
Yep. Yep.
All right, well, I'm going to close that down and start that all over again. All right, and we're live, hopefully for good this time. This is Anchorman V2, aka Ivan. Thank you guys for tuning in to Multiverse Show. We're just doing a little technical stuff, had some updates to OBS as we host our show. Sorry for not having a show last week. It was kind of hectic. I had to cancel the show last minute. I put that on Twitter for you guys. It was not our normal plan for things. So we are going to get started for this evening. Sam, we are up and live. Does it show up right?
That is correct.
All right, so we're good to go. All right. First off, we have our introductions for the evening. We have Mr. Mike P. to Truth, or Donna Deletion.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike. Thank you for tuning in for another great episode of the Multiverse Show. As always, we have an awesome show planned for everybody tonight, so let's get it started.
All right, and we also have Samuel Tolbert from Windows Central. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be back here with my bros. Let's get this spooky, scary energy going.
Yep, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up for you guys. This is the first show in October, so we are kicking off Spooktober this year. But first off, as we kind of get everything rolling on this end here, what have you guys been playing? Sam, kick us off here. What have you been playing, sir?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of the new game from Motive Montreal Studios, and that is Star Wars Squadrons. Are either of you guys playing this? Just out of curiosity.
I personally have not had a chance to play it yet.
Okay.
No, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you say about it.
Yeah, no, so basically what this game is, and I do not mean this in a bad way at all, is it's the flying portion of Battlefront 2 expanded and turned into a full game. They took that mode and they just expanded the bejesus out of it. This is honestly very close to being like a pilot sim. Almost like you can freely look around your cockpit and you have to look behind you. You can adjust the throttle speed. You can rotate your ship. You can manage your power and balance it between different systems. So if you're willing to cut the engines, you can give your lasers a massive boost to just cut your enemy to ribbons, or you can reinforce your front shields if you're taking a big ship head on. It feels really cool. It feels right. Feels like a great Star Wars game. It's very difficult in ways, but they do a lot in the campaign to sort of on-ramp you. The campaign is basically an extended tutorial, right? Like, it's, okay, the Empire's remnants are fighting the New Republic after Episode 6. Like, the story it's whatever. It's an excuse to have you in those ships out there fighting, and it feels really good. I lose track of time when I'm playing it. And if you need more convincing to go grab it, it's only $40. It's not 60 like most games are, especially EA games. It's only $40 and it supports full crossplay across all platforms. Nice. So seriously, give it a look.
Now, my only question, at least regarding that, is does it actually allow you to get out of the ship and like go on other people's ships, or no? Is it still like a Battlefront, or no? I'll let you.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up for me. What was that?
So like in other Battlefront games, like Rogue Squadron and such, you could fly around like these big space battles. Like you go to these cruisers, and you could get off into the hangar bay and go. Okay, you do that at all, or no? It's just pilot combat.
Okay, no. This is focused solely on pilot combat. You start out in the hangar of your ship as you're selecting and customizing your loadout and whatnot, but like that's it. After that, you go back and like you're not trying to board the enemy ships like in Battlefront. You're just trying to bring them down. End of the story.
Gotcha.
So I have a question, Sam, as far as the maneuverability and handling of the ships, because what you were describing, it seems like in some ways it's mechanically similar, at least, to Elite Dangerous. And not that the flying and the combat is as in-depth as that, but, when I played Elite Dangerous, one of the things that kind of pushed me away from it was I felt there was a really steep learning curve as far as the controls. How are the controls in the game and the ship handling and everything?
I don't think it was too confusing to figure out. Like, I say it was complicated. It's more complicated than Battlefront 2's is. Like I said, they expanded the controls out, but it's not too bad once you get your hands on it. It's basic maneuverability, and the important thing to keep in mind is you don't always have to have your hand on the sticks. You can just set your throttle and adjust, and then freely look around the cockpit or stuff like that. All the ships handle well to me, but it is important to keep in mind that they all handle differently. If you're in a Y-wing, it's very big and bulky and it can't turn well, but it has heavy shields and armor, so it can just tank a lot of hits. Whereas if you're in a TIE Interceptor or not Empire, New Republic A-Wing, then you can just flit around and zoom around and go faster than anyone else. But you're going to get, cut to ribbons pretty quickly if anything actually does hit you. It's a different balance, and you can find different ships. I actually would recommend for new players, like the X-Wing is probably the best balance, or the regular TIE Fighter, and then you can expand out from there when you're ready to leave your comfort zone.
All right, that's awesome. What you been playing, Mike?
Guys, I fell into the rabbit hole. So I downloaded Animal Crossing New Horizons. I figured, well, they got this Halloween thing going on. Maybe now's a good time to download the game and check it out. This is the first time that I've played an Animal Crossing game. I don't have any experience with the series prior to this. It is very easy, and I did fall into that rabbit hole. A lot of the things that you're doing, especially in the early goings where I'm at now, where I have I'm in my third day, seems mundane, but I don't know. There's just something about the gameplay loop that just hooks you in, and I could definitely see why the game is so popular and why it has the following that it does. So, I mean, other than that, I've been playing a little bit of Super Mario 3D All Stars also, but that's really been the main thing, especially over the past couple of days, has been Animal Crossing. Really enjoying it.
I know our friend Dollface there. She loves Animal Crossing. Wait. Had to go. Anyway, so we also have Spooktober. As you guys know, for our long-term fans, month of October, first time we have a show in October. We normally give our suggestions, things to. So this year we got 4 different weeks. So each week we're going to be giving our suggestions. We know per person here. But this week, to kind of catch up on stuff, we're going to give you 2 suggestions each. We normally mix it up between movies and TV shows, anime, video games, something along those lines to get you guys going. The only rule of thumb we really follow here is it's got to be something in that kind of Halloween vibe, not necessarily just being somewhat scary, or like, oh yeah, it has aliens, something like that. It has to actually be something that's more of a tone to it, not necessarily like scary per se, but something in that kind of. So we're gonna get things started here. Does anyone want to go first, or let me go my first round first?
Yeah, I can go first.
All right, what you got, Mike?
So I actually have a movie and a game, so that'll be my 2 for this week. So as far as the movie, first of all, this doesn't count as my official submission. If you haven't seen The Witch, please go see it. It's fantastic. It's probably the best horror movie I've ever seen. Anyway, so my pick for this week. It is a film that came out, I believe, in 2016, called Lights Out. Was directed by David F. Sandberg and produced by James Wan, who some of you may know from The Conjuring, and I believe he did Sinister and some other horror movies as well. So this movie I thought was really well done because it takes a concept where I haven't seen it done in a movie before, but it's like, why didn't anybody think of this before? So basically, it's about a demon that when the lights are on, you're not able to see it. But when the lights are off, you're able to see its silhouette, which is where it gets the name Lights Out. And the movie does a really good job of building tension and getting some scares out of that. Not cheap scares either, although there are some jump scares, but mostly it's just about the atmosphere and the overall creepy factor. And the film actually does have a good story behind it, too, to back it up, which is something that you typically don't see with a lot of modern horror films. So that's definitely one that I would totally recommend. If you have a chance to see that, definitely check it out. As far as my game is concerned, this is going to be a pretty obvious one of a game that came out this generation. I'm going to go with Outlast on this. in my opinion, truly the scariest games are the ones that disempower the player. And certain games to this generation have done that to an extent. Resident Evil 7 is an example of that, and the Resident Evil 2 remake is an example of that. I have never felt so disempowered in a game before as I did when I was playing Outlast. Of course, it's mostly a stealth-based game, but you feel completely helpless as you're playing this game. The AI is really smart. The atmosphere is off the charts. Most of the game is played in dark hallways, dark areas, things like that. The enemies pursue you relentlessly. It's got a good story to back it up. This game stressed me out so much. This has never happened with me before. This is the first game I got about halfway through it, and I literally could not finish the game because I was so stressed out playing it. That's the effect that this game has on you and how much it immerses you in the experience. I actually had to watch a Let's Play to get the other half of the game.
Dude, I can totally
this is
back that
definitely
up. Yeah, dude, I tried playing that game in college. I made sure, especially, like, I wouldn't get freaked out because I'm not a big horror game person. But man,
right.
I remember I waited till like 11 o'clock in the morning, like sun's out, like birds chirping, put a little music on in the background, all the lights are on. I got
Doesn't help.
Does not help at all. I got so sucked into the game. I got so terrified, like the first level, where you're literally just like you could climb a ladder or something to go into like the second floor of the room. I got so stressed out in a room where nothing happens. There's nothing there.
And there are stretches of the game where nothing's going on, but trust me, you're never bored. Like, I've never experienced that in a game before. So, I mean, if you really like horror and you have nerves of steel, then definitely Outlast would be my pick.
I think I quit.
I'm not the biggest fan of like horror games where the player is disempowered. It's actually not something I like, but I will say I do enjoy a lot of the original Outlast. I'm not so fond of the second one, but the first one is a very good horror ride for sure.
Man, I don't know what else to say. That game really was experience. Like, I think I ended up quitting because I got so stressed out at the basement level. Like, I got so stressed out I had to stop playing. But yeah. Anyway, so next little bit there. Sam, what are your submissions for?
Yeah, so my first submission is a movie, and it is a slasher of sorts, I guess, but really I think it's better called a thriller, and it's called Hush. Have either of you seen this film?
No, it's on my list though. Not my
Yes,
list.
Netflix.
Yes, it's on Netflix. I won't say too much, but I just want to give the basic concept. Anyone who knows me, I'm not really a big fan of slashers. I'm not, actually. I think most of them are lazy. I think some of them, like the original, maybe Halloween or the original Friday the 13th, had a lot more thought put into them, but I've become very critical of the genre as time has gone on, and it's basically just become an excuse of, oh, how many different ways can we kill teenagers? But that's not what Hush is. Hush is a film about a deaf woman who, she lives by herself out in the woods. She can't speak and she can't hear. She lost them, I think it's said in the film, due to meningitis. And one night, as a friend is leaving the house, this woman, whose name is Maddie, becomes attacked by a mass serial killer who very quickly catches on to the fact that she is deaf. And so the tension is just, the entire film is this cat and mouse game between the two of them, as she has to try and take advantage of what she knows about the area, and he's clearly taking advantage of the fact that she can't hear anything or speak, and cry for help. And it does a lot of very interesting things. It's a very low budget. It was done by Blumhouse Productions. I think the budget was maybe $1 million, maybe at absolute max. It was directed by Mike Flanagan, and it's a very interesting, refreshing take on the genre. I would highly recommend.
I second that. I did see the movie. It's fantastic. I would highly recommend it as well. Great choice.
And your other pick?
You kind of picked up for me. You're a little rough for me.
Oh, I said, and your other pick?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, man.
Hello? Is that better?
Yeah, there we go. That's better. There you go, man.
Is it in your other pick?
Oh yeah, so my other pick, a little more obvious, but no less good in my opinion. That is a video game, and it's Alien Isolation. One of the best horror games this generation. I've been watching a friend stream it recently. If I wasn't so busy, I'd be playing it again myself right now. Alien Isolation is the best Alien game we've ever gotten. Just the entire layout of the station, it is a love letter to the original film with, the blocky VCR, industrial style technology. It's not the sleek future you see in a lot of other sci-fi movies. Very industrial, very rough. And I don't want to spoil too much, but the entire setup is the daughter of Ellen Ripley. Amanda Ripley is a 25-year-old woman. She's an engineer, and she's called on a station, on a repair trip to a station, Sevastopol, that is in the process of being dismantled. And spoiler alert, there is an alien on the station. And you don't have any weaponry capable of killing the alien. You can dispatch the rogue androids or the thieves and looters and the murderers, like the humans who have just formed gangs on the station, but you can't actually dispose of the alien itself. And while I do think it's a little long in terms of gameplay and setting and atmosphere, it's absolutely fantastic. And I would definitely recommend it.
So for mine, I got one that doesn't count just because we don't normally recommend other podcasts on this show unless they're one's podcast one of our guys is on. We don't normally do that. But I do suggest one. I found them through Spotify, but I think they're on other things too. Chilling Tales for Dark Nights. I've been listening to them for the last 2 months, mainly on between drives. I have a 30-minute drive I do for commuting, and so I literally listen to them on the way home when it's dark. And it's absolutely great. They're a little it's like an hour and a half long show, between an hour and a half. They're normally 20-minute long stories that are done. And those guys do an excellent job, really well done. It's not just creepypastas, but it's original short stories as well. Normally pretty good. Most of the time, episodes are there's normally it's the same problem as a Twilight Zone. You're gonna find out a really poor written one. Most of the time, shows go have a great concept, but there's no payoff to it. Someone who gets stuck with a bad script, but they do a really good job voice acting for it. Or in rare occasions, you get both, where it's great concept, great delivery, and it's just those are the ones where it's worth listening. I'm not going to spoil anything on the show. If you want to talk about it sometime, hit me up at an Xbox party or something like that. I will gladly talk to you about some of the great episodes I've heard. Really, it's an absolute blast. That one doesn't count because it's a podcast. But my 2 suggestions for time. This is actually a new fad. Among Us. This game that's been floating around lately. You guys played it at all yet?
No, I haven't.
It's on PC for $6, or you can play it on your phone for free. Oh my god, it is a fun game. It's set up like The Thing, where it's you have a group of 8 guys, or sorry, there's actually 10 survivors. It's set up very well. Everyone's given a role, and they have certain tasks they have to perform around this spaceship. Empty the trash chutes, refill the gas, fill the engine room with gas, go to the weapons thing and shoot asteroids out of our path. Every so often, certain things will happen to the ship, running out of oxygen. You got 30 seconds to restart the oxygen thing, and everybody starts freaking out about that. Or the power will go out, so you have to go reboot everything. It's not presented in a scary manner, but it leads to some great thriller elements. Because the part that makes it so good is that there's an imposter on the ship. And this imposter is charged with killing all the other members. So if you guys want to play there's a game, not an actual video game, but there's a game called Mafia or Werewolf at Midnight. Other versions of that, you have to find out who the imposter is amongst the group. So if you discover a dead body, like the killer has like a 30-second cooldown between killing people. You can't just kill people with they can also go in events and sabotage rooms locked in the room together. Little things like that. So you actually have to systematically figure out who is the imposter. And there's like a chat beforehand that's like a minute before you vote to kick people out. It really is a lot of fun. It will start making you guess things and question people. When you get a good lobby of people, beautiful game. But it's honestly a much better game if you play it other people like at a party together, and you're playing together and verbally talking to each other and try to figure out who the kid is. Absolute. Other than that, my other suggestion is actually more of a children's horror movie. Did you guys ever see The Witches?
No, I haven't.
No, I didn't either, actually.
It's on Netflix now. This is a movie made for children. It is not made for children, though. Very terrifying.
It's one of those PG films.
So it's Roald Dahl. So it's one of those, like, okay, it's kind of creepy in a non-creepy fashion, I guess. It's a Roald Dahl book they made into a movie. It's got Angelica Houston as the titular head witch. But then they also have Rowan Atkinson as a hotel manager. Like, he's the biggest name star there. It's very weird, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. But the cool part is the production company is Jim Henson. So there is a ton of special effects in this one, but they're all practical. And they are really good. And honestly, if you freeze frame some of these are terrifying. It's like, oh my god. Like, so the premise, it's a children's movie premise. There are witches in this world. There's certain ways to tell them apart. His parents die, and he's living with his grandmother. And the grandmother takes him to this hotel because she's diagnosed with diabetes. They don't really treat it like diabetes at all. Like, treat it like it's like, oh, it's a cold. Oh, just stop eating sugar and have a nice holiday at the beach. But it doesn't matter. They stumble upon a convention of witches, and they have a plan to turn all the children into mice. There is one particular part, well, there's a lot of it, honestly, a lot of transformation stuff. But, like, this stuff is like an attempt at a PG-13 version of American Werewolf and Transformation. It is terrifying.
Yes.
They have one where they turn this kid into a mouse, and it's not like, oh yeah, you turn into a mouse. It's like, over a period of 30 seconds, this kid is like shaking, convulsing, sweating, boils, like his face is like stretching out and doing stuff, and it's like, oh my god, this is not made for children.
It's just, it comes from that lovely time when we had films like Gremlins and The Dark Crystal, where it's like, let's traumatize the kids just right.
Oh, this is worse than Gremlins. This is worse than Gremlins.
Wow.
Like,
nice.
Go watch that tonight. Like, it's like an hour and a half. Just watch that for a little bit. It is really messed up. But anyway, that's my suggestion list for spook. Well, we next week to talk about more stuff like that. We actually got to get some of our topics tonight. So first up on the docket, one thing I hope James is gonna be on, but James actually has an accident today. He's gonna go right now. So we're hoping he's gonna be okay. Time. Anyway, we're gonna talk about this. So there's been a lot of upheaval going on. Like, I live in North Carolina, and they just decided to open up movie theaters this last Friday. He just decided to do it, but then on that very day, we got news that Regal Cinemas here in the U.S., I think it's Cineworld is the equivalent in the UK.
Yeah.
They have announced they're going to be closing down operations indefinitely. So this is actually terrifying, and I didn't know if I didn't hear confirmation, but I know there was speculation that AMC was going to be closing as well.
Yep.
At least indefinitely. Sam, do you have any more details on that? Then I don't recall.
Fortunately, no, because I was kind of busy today. I was expecting James to cover that, but my understanding is AMC will be shutting down as well. Yes.
And this is, to be clear, this is not like permanent shutdown, but this is like,
Mhm.
okay, we're shutting down until we know things are getting back together. This has been something that's been a very strange time for people because we really don't know what's going to happen right now. I know a lot of people were hoping that the Mulan was going to pull through, and then they moved up to streaming as an option, and then I know a lot of people were banking on Tenet being the one to get people back on board, and apparently that didn't really work per se. But I know Sam and I talked about this like in April. Like this may be the end of like the movie industry as we know it, as being like a
Yep.
large scale thing. And right now, since we don't know what's going to happen, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's very. I wish I had James' insight here. It's very uncertain times as to what on earth is going to happen. But I'll be honest, I'm not feeling confident in the film industry moving forward. I'm just not. It doesn't seem like everything is okay. It seems like Tenet actually really hurt things because now theaters are going to be even more uncertain about opening. And that was a big Chris Nolan production, and that wasn't able to get people out there. What is? What's actually going to be able to get, butts in seats? I don't know. And there's also the fact that we have cases spiking all over the U.S. and in Europe in places. So I don't know what to tell y'all. I really don't, except to say these big companies seriously need to start thinking about putting stuff on streaming and on demand. I realize you won't be making as much money, but you probably would be making at least something, which right now you're just not. Right now you just have to sit on all these films. So many films just keep on getting pushed back, Didn't we find out that the Dune movie has been pushed to 2021?
Yep.
Yes, that is correct.
10-month delay.
Yeah, like 10, 11-month delay. The Batman is almost certainly getting delayed because
they put on the same
Dune
date.
now comes out on the same day as the Batman. So the Batman is almost certainly getting delayed. Several films are currently tentatively scheduled for like March or April next year. I'm not even sure if that'll happen. Like, I'm seriously not certain that things will be stable enough for them to even open up then, because that's only in a few months. We're in October here, and it doesn't seem like we're actually any closer. I don't know. I have a lot of film companies and a lot of people in general have this weird idea that things just get magically fixed the moment we hit January 2021, and I don't think that's the case. I just don't.
I don't think it's the case either. And I agree with what you were saying, Sam. I mean, these companies have to really strongly consider just putting their stuff out on streaming because these delays have been too difficult to count. And they have to think of a way because movie viewers like me, right? I'm the type of person where I'll go to the movies maybe once or twice a year. Like, it's got to be something I really, really want to see to go to the theater to see it. So to give you guys some perspective, last year I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters in theaters when that came out, and the next movie I saw after that was Joker. So, like, for me to go to the theater, movies that are coming up, Godzilla versus Kong, I was planning on seeing that in the theater. That's been delayed now again until May, I believe. And Many Saints of Newark, which was pushed back it was supposed to come out last month, and now I believe that's in March. So something like that might take moviegoers like me that only go maybe one or two times a year and force them to say, you know what, F it, I'm just not going to go at all. And they need a way to make up that revenue. And I think them releasing movies on streaming platforms and on demand is going to be the best way for them to do that, because you can't just keep pushing everything back in perpetuity either. So they're kind of at a crossroads with where they're at now.
I think on top of that too, like, honestly, I don't think the movie industry can sustain being what it is currently, where it's more dependent on trying to get as many people in the theater as possible. I don't think that's going to be possible going forward. I think what's going to have to end up happening is a smaller service kind of thing. Like you could still have some of the larger theaters for certain events and stuff, like Avengers, big like that. It's going to just definitely put butts in seats. But in terms of just being like commercially viable, it's going to have to be like a smaller thing, but like a pricier ticket. Like, hey, you want to go see this movie? It's going to be like a movie tavern experience. Be like hey, pay us $20 as opposed to 10 or 13. Like that. I mean, here that's how much a movie ticket is. But I'm saying if you could increase it going forward, where it's going to be like, hey, we're shooting for a premium experience. We're not just going to do as many people butts of seats as possible. That's going to have to how they make things up for it. Like it's not like it's sustainable right now, in its current state at least.
Depends on regionally too, I think, though, because around where I live, if you want to see like a big budget movie in IMAX, a lot of the theaters around me, that's that's a $25 ticket right there for one ticket. And so at the same time, it's like, how much realistically can they increase that price without turning people off? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you're also talking about an IMAX ticket. I'm just talking like a bare bones. You're gonna go see the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like no. So for us, it's
Gotcha.
like what's it?
Yeah, because by me, it costs about the same for just the bare bones movie ticket, around $10.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like 10 or $13. Like here in North Carolina, South Carolina, that's a typical price. But like normally for me, like I go get luxury seating. Like I have a theater I prefer to go to, and it's because I am willing to pay for a movie I want to go see. I will pay the money to have a recliner and that kind of stuff. I will do that. It has to be a premium type of experience. Unfortunately, I think that's how it's going to have to be. Where it's like a regular trip's gonna be at least $50 per person, or for them to be viable to make up the difference for lost people. That's the thing until at least things get back to normal. But hey, if things do go back to normal next year and they don't just keep pushing back movies, like you could literally have a brand new movie launching every single week. They got blockbuster after blockbuster, just pouring people in the theater. But
true, very true.
That's true.
Anyway, so that's one thing. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to the next topic?
Nope, think I'm all set.
Yeah, I think I am too.
Gotcha. All right, so other thing too, so over the weekend we had PlayStation 5 got their hands-on experience now. Now, over last week, Xbox had been shipping out Series X units for reviewers and opinions on. I know that there was a limitation, though, on certain things they could talk about. I know right now it was limited to hardware and backwards compatibility impressions. And I think largely everybody was pretty positive about that. Mostly because it was saying, hey, look, there's a bunch of backwards compatibility games that aren't really optimized for next gen yet, but just look how we can brute. Just look what we can do, and that's been very interesting to watch. I know like one of the benchmark games is like Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, one of those two. I think it's Shadow of the Tomb.
Yeah,
that's one that's like normally considered the benchmark game for people to play. That one is very interesting to watch. Like they were talking about, like this thing is pushing out, like it's doing without even being. But that was Xbox. PlayStation did a little differently. They did an actual event, so you could actually. It was mainly just limited to Japan, so people got to go and see PlayStation 5 in person, do impressions. I got the impression that people enjoyed it. Again, like I didn't see it, but no one's like picked up the console or anything to like try to put their hands in it. size comparison help at all. I don't know. Did anything else slip out of there that I noticed? I didn't notice here.
That was basically it. They weren't allowed to show off the UI, so we still don't know what the UI is. They weren't allowed to show off the create button, so we still don't know how the create button is different from the share button. My personal theory, just want to broadcast this right now, timestamp it, whatever. The fact is, I don't think it's actually that big of a deal. I think they're hyping up something that isn't really that big of a hype up. Like, I think it's probably just like an inbuilt, add filters and emojis and whatever to your clips or your pictures. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I bet it makes it into a GIF or something.
Yeah. Because
they've been really pushing that lately with all like, oh look, we released a bunch of Last of Us Part 2 GIFs. Like, yeah,
making your own GIF would totally be the kind of thing. Heck, I'd take advantage of it. More interestingly, they did show some Godfall gameplay. I don't think that game looks interesting. However, it basically has no load time. They showed people dying in game, and then it says, press B to, get back in the action, and then it's instantaneous. It's just like it's not even a second. I'm serious. It's fractions of a second. That is very impressive. That's really cool. But that was pretty much it.
Yeah. Then there's also whatever the guy they've been using, the meme guy now, where he's like blowing into the controller. He looks happy about it.
That guy.
I mean, there's the meme guy going around. So hey, we got that out of it. So, other than that, there's a lot of stuff to really talk about. I don't know. Remind me here. I don't recall PlayStation like showing off all that much, like at least far out from launch. I mean, all we really saw was here's the controller, here's the thing. Like, I don't recall they showed the UI for PlayStation 4 to like maybe a week.
That seems about right.
Like I don't know. I recall them playing everything very close to the chest last gen. They're just waiting they just do reaction stuff to everybody else. That's what I remember them doing. I don't know. I don't expect all that much to see it from. I think right now, just that because we're all working from home or trying to survive a pandemic, we want to see like some basic stuff, and they're like, "No, you can wait."
Basically,
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, also in the same kind of Spider-Man vein, we didn't really get to talk about it last week. It was something interesting. So they showed off Spider-Man Remastered, and it looks better. I'll say that much. It looks better. I personally didn't notice all that much of a difference, at least in terms of graphical stuff. It just looks like it runs like the way it was supposed to run. That's kind of it. I mean, at least I don't know. I mean, I'd be impressed by it, but it was running at like what 60 frames per second, right?
Yeah, that was the most impressive part to me. Was the 60 FPS for sure.
But other than that, I didn't see all that much beyond that. Like shorter loading times, less pop in, a little bit of pop in on textures. Very, very. Only if you're like have the microscope out going at like each individual frame. Like, yes, I see it.
Yeah, because that was already a good-looking game. So basically, they're just squeezing like that extra little 9/10 out of it, I guess you could say.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I feel I feel a bit about like charging for this as a remaster. I think there's something inherently dumb about a remaster of a game that's 2 years old, but that's just me. Evidently, I'm in the minority based on how many people I see excited for it. So it is what it is. But there's one kind of odd thing, isn't there, Ivan? Like one little, like it's not even bad. It's just, huh?
And I'm gonna say, I don't care what anybody says. They want him to look like Tom Holland. I'm gonna say it right now. They reshaped the face of the Peter Parker model. He no longer looks like he used to. He looks like a mixture between the old guy and Tom Holland. Like, I mean, they said I mean, they said like, "Oh, we wanted to get closer to what Yuri looks like," and it's like, why didn't you do that the first time? Like, I don't believe them. I'm sorry. I really don't believe them. He looks way too much like Tom Holland for just to be coincidence. What was the official answer? They said like, oh well, we wanted to like look closer to Yuri's face so we could better capture like some works in his motion capture.
I don't. They went with a different actor. Hold on, let me pull up the names so I don't get them wrong right now. Here we go. Okay, yeah. So they recast him instead of using John Bugniak, who was the previous facial model. They've now cast Ben Jordan. And you're right. I don't care what anyone says, Ivan. He 100% looks way more like Tom Holland now. It could be like he does. It's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying objectively he does. I think the one thing I'm going to say about this is it's kind of interesting that he looks a lot younger now, and I would actually argue he looks younger than Miles Morales, even though he's supposed to be, in the mentorship role because he's older than him. He's way more experienced in crime fighting than him. So that's going to be a little weird. But I mean, outside of that, like it's a change. It's fine. It's still Peter Parker, clearly.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sam, because that was my first thought too. When they showed kind of like the comparison, he was like, this new Spider-Man looks really young. Like he looks like he could pass for like 17 or something like that. He's really young looking. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's still Peter Parker. It's like, whatever. It's the same game, just different face, basically.
Yeah. It's okay, I'll say this on top of the age thing. In addition to Miles Morales, if they haven't changed the way they look, it's going to be a little interesting seeing him interact with Mary Jane and Black Cat as well. Like that's going to be okay. All right, what are we doing here? But is what it is. It is what it is.
All right, last topic. Something that actually happened today. Things are, it's always more fun to talk about something that happened today because Monday is always a very fun time. So, we had an announcement that Cyberpunk has gone gold, meaning they have finally finished Cyberpunk 2077. At this point, they're just working on bugs. Base code is complete, done. Play in November when it. So a little bit of context. Feel free to correct me, Sam or Mike. I just want to make sure we covered all our bases here. Last week we had an announcement formally from CD Projekt Red that they were going to bring mandatory crunch mode. Meaning that they are now going to be working 6 days a week as opposed to 5. And this is only a big deal because in the past they have said they were never going to do crunch. Crunch is bad. Yeah, that's pretty much what they told everybody. This is the first time people are doing mandatory crunch. There have been people who did it willingly, but now this is mandatory crunch.
It was voluntary before this, I believe. It was like, hey, if you wanna, you can do it, and you get your extra paycheck and get more work done or whatever. But like now, it is mandatory. And I talked about this on Game Perspective, so I don't really want to rehash my opinion on the crunch issue too much here. I'll just say this. The bigger issue to me is not that you're doing it. It's that you had a big interview that you made a big deal of saying, we're not going to do this. Kind of feels like you were tempting fate if there was even the slightest possibility it could happen. That's just me. I don't know how y'all feel. That's just kind of my opinion on it. It's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of like a jank. It's like, oh, we're not going to do crunch. It's like you're asking for it at that point.
Right. Like it's a creative field. The chance of a game needing crunch at the end. I'm not talking about sustained crunch, throughout the development cycle, because that would point to something being clearly wrong, like what we saw with Anthem and BioWare. I mean, like, the chances that a game will need a few weeks of crunch towards the end to get bugs out is high. It's very, very overwhelmingly high. So don't jinx yourself by saying you're not going to do it.
I know for me, there was a good conversation on Gaming Perspective that I got to tune in for a little. For me personally, I mean, yeah, crunch sucks. There's the ideal of everybody working like a 40-hour work week, and like, oh yeah, the project will be done whenever it's done. Like that's a great ideal to have, but it's living in a fantasy land. Work that way. Whether there's not like an official release date or not, when games are going into development, there is an expected when the game is window, and if you miss that window, there are going to be repercussions. Like okay, normally a good planner will say, okay, we're going to make sure we have enough budget to keep everybody paid for like at least through the whole time here. And if we have to delay, we can still get by on the second portion. Like, they'll normally
plan
for something like that, but Cyberpunk got delayed like twice now. Supposed to come out.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to come out in April, and then it was supposed to come out in September.
Yeah, it's been delayed twice now, and November is do or die. You do not miss this date anymore.
The optics of delaying it, even though the thing is, this game 100% could have gotten away with it. To be clear, like the hype, I don't think people understand how big the hype for this game is. This game is going to be comparable to a GTA launch. Seriously, I'm dead serious. I just want to put that out there right now. Like, this game is going to be massive, but they could have gotten away with delaying. Yeah, if they had so chosen to.
But it's more that, like, okay, my mentality personally when it comes to delays is everybody gets one. You can delay it one time. Delay it more than that, I'm done. Like, for me, like, my hype level for Cyberpunk is pretty low right now because they've already broken that rule. But I'm still gonna play it. But like they don't get benefit of the doubt anymore. COVID gives me a little more sympathy towards it. But still, as a general rule, you get one delay.
I was gonna say, like, you gotta adjust that rule now, given the pandemic and how that's thrown things off here. Like, that's not. Before, I could understand you saying that, but now it's like, okay, you gotta give a little more wiggle room.
For this year, you get everybody gets 2 for this year. Hey, that's the deal here. But yeah, when it comes to crunch, I also find it really weird to have the video game market. Everybody pretends like crunch is such a bad, evil thing that's no one should ever do it. But almost every other industry that has like goals and deadlines, they do their own version of crunch. My job has crunch. We have crunch like the last week of every month. We're working balls to the wall the last week of every month. No, everybody's got crunch to some extent. It's so weird that this particular industry, it's a bad thing all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard.
I will say,
go ahead.
I will say there's different kinds of crunch, and I think that's what we need to be focusing on. There are certain types of crunch that are wrong, for sake of keeping it easy. CD Projekt Red's version of crunch, where it's like, hey, I need you to work an extra day a week for 6 weeks, and
you're going to get paid overtime.
Yeah, and
8 hours. Not a big deal, honestly.
Like that does. I had that same opinion. Like, that doesn't really seem like that big of a deal. Like, I'm not sure I would really call that crunch. I mean, that we think of crunch.
Yeah, crunch is I've actually had some developers. I'm not going to name names here, but I've had some developers tell me they personally don't like how big of a term it's become because there's different kinds, and they said there is a difference between crunch and death march. Death March is like what you have happen where, like what happened with BioWare and Anthem, where in 2017 or even 2016, before the game was announced, you had teams just, working 90-hour weeks, only for months later the direction to completely change and features to get shelved. And it's like, y'all, what are we doing here? Like, come on. Like, that's not the same thing as, although the latter, it's not like any kind is okay or ideal. There is a big difference between that and, okay, y'all, we're not delaying this thing again. Like, let's get down to brass tacks. We have to fix this stuff. It's going to take a couple of extra weeks. And then also, like, I would also point out that there's a difference between U.S. and Polish labor laws, or actually a difference between the U.S. and everywhere else. But in Poland in particular, you are guaranteed payment for any kind of overtime, even if you're salaried. That's not the case in the U.S. That is not even remotely the case in the U.S. Does not work that way over here, as anyone on a salary can attest.
Yep.
So.
And that's the thing too. Like, I look at, well, there is a difference there. Like, I think when people talk about crunch, what they're really talking about is Naughty Dog crunch, where it's like you're spending your whole night over at the office, you're sleeping under your desk, working 90, 100-hour weeks. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, that kind, obviously, I think people are like, it's wrong. You don't do that kind of crunch. But then all at the same time, like, work an extra day. Like, what if they even told them, like, hey, look, you just work 2 hours extra a week, or every day, rather, an extra 2 hours every day, same time. Like, if that was
like,
the
we don't know
case,
the details of it.
at all.
No, it's not. And you bring up a good point, because I'm in the same boat as you. Like, when I think of crunch, I feel like I think of somebody like they're working like 16, 17-hour days. They're sleeping at the office. They can't see their family or their friends because that's literally all they're doing. They have absolutely zero work-life balance or close to zero. Like, when somebody says crunch, that's what my mind instantly jumps to. Would be a situation like that.
But yeah, so I mean that's a whole. So little bit here that happened today for a little bit of drama news. So CD Projekt Red put out this tweet saying, "Oh, we've gone gold! Yay! Happy go lucky us!" Jason Schreier, formerly working at Kotaku, now working at Blue, put out a little tweet. I'm just gonna paraphrase for you guys, something along the lines of, "Oh, congratulations on going gold! I know all those overworked people are happy. They got to work on fixing bugs now. Raining on the parade, so to speak." That's really what happened here. And put it this way: Jason Schreier has a history of not giving a damn on Twitter. He does not care who you are. He doesn't care what you care, anything about you. He'll go after you if he can. The part where I realized this was when he started going Ruckman and Hug. I realized that happened a couple months ago. More recently, what's happened this time is you had Paris from Gamertag Radio, who's kind of like blown up in the last few. Decided to respond to Jason Schreier, basically saying, "Oh, you're a jerk with an agenda. You have something you want to prove. You want to stroke your own ego. Things of that kind of nature." Jason decided to respond to that and basically accused him of being a shill, because Paris has notably been a very large proponent for CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk 20, and got like free merchandise, like gaming chair, and other things. I believe he got like a customized Cyberpunk Xbox at one point. Like, he's gotten Paris is not a reviewer. He's not a journalist. Some guy on a podcast, influence, and he got a bunch of stuff. Jason basically took him to task, saying, like, "Look, you're the one who's been bought off here. Like, I don't accept gifts from. I'll speak my mind." Very interesting stuff. They kind of like launched this like mini discussion about journalism. I kind of want to get your guys' impressions on that aspect. Not necessarily the beef per se, but the side effect.
It's the discussion around it, not like in itself.
Like
okay, Mike, do you mind if I tackle this one first?
Sure.
No, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting discussion. We do not have time to go into all the nuances about how I feel about it. Just to be blunt, I think it's a whole thing. I will say that there's a couple of different things I would point out. Like within game journalism, quotation marks, heavy there in bold italicized font, you have different types of roles. You have different people. Like I do everything. Okay, I literally do everything. Like name it, and I have done it. I have found a way to do it. You have other people like Jason. He specializes in reporting. He doesn't review games at Bloomberg, right? He's a reporter. He reports. You have other people who might focus specifically on SEO and SEO content, and for getting your website to do better or product links, et cetera, affiliate revenue, that sort of thing. And then you have influencers on the influencing side who are basically, as far as I'm aware, one-man stand shows, right? Or like maybe you're a part of a group, maybe you're a part of a podcast, but at the end of the day, it's you managing the PR, but you also got to do this, but you also got to do that. I'm not going to say who's right or who's wrong in any of that, because I think that robs it of the nuance of the issue itself, of what it is. But I will say, back in 2014, what game was it? Was it Shadow of Mordor? It was like a marketing company. It wasn't Warner Brothers proper. It was like a marketing company they worked with. Basically had a bunch of YouTubers who were paid to promote the game, not exactly disclose that they were paid to promote the game. And it actually got to the point where the government stepped in. Like the U.S. government, which doesn't care about anything and never steps in on anything, basically stepped in and said, hey, no, not cool. You're going to disclose this stuff. The FCC, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, was the division that had to just step in and just put an end to it. They're like, this doesn't work. So I will cautiously say two things. And I know that's wishy-washy, but it is what it is. That's what you're getting out of me. Cautious statement number one, within an outlet, like a journalistic outlet, there is a network of accountability. Doesn't mean I agree with everything anyone says. Doesn't mean I like certain people. Doesn't mean that everything is always hunky-dory or there isn't an agenda. It means that at the end of the day, they have people they are responsible to go and talk to when they screw up. That's what I mean. Like there is an accountability, hey, what the hell, above them, in theory. There is not on the influencer side. That being said, I also, to counter that, will say that the idea that because you have received something for free means you cannot critically engage with it is disingenuous at absolute best, downright malicious at worst. Yeah. Because I have gotten plenty of free swag, and I will not name names. I'm not going to name anyone names out here. Some of the best swag I've gotten when I was like at E3 wandering around is from companies that I really don't want to have anything to do with, or got busted for some skeevy stuff going on, or like, this isn't cool. Like, and controversial. And on the contrary, we're not controversial. I suppose it's controversial. I've gotten swag from companies that was like, hey, this is great. Yeah, like, I don't care that you gave me this cool thing. I really don't. I literally file it into a different part of my brain. I can partition it off, and it doesn't affect the way I think. That may not be the case for all people, though. I don't know. Anyways, that's my wishy-washy bunch of commentary.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam, and I'm going to stay away from the drama aspect of it. I think you guys probably already know my feelings on it if you follow me on Twitter. But going back to what you said with the Shadow of Mordor situation, I do remember that. And I think that combined with a couple years later, what happened with T. Martin and the whole CSGO Lotto fiasco, I think those two events really are what contributed to the government stepping in and saying, like, hey, if you own this site's product, or if you're getting sponsorships, or if you have to disclose this stuff. I think it was those two events that really spurred that, especially in the YouTube streets, so to speak. I'm going to agree with you that to say that because somebody got free stuff, that they're getting sent swag from a company, that they can't be objective and they can't be critical. I think that's a dangerous mindset to get into, because if you apply that logic, then nobody could be objective then. So, I mean, obviously, reviewers at gaming websites, they get review codes for games all the time. And if they review a game and they really like it and they give it a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, are you really going to question them like, they got a free review code for this great game? Are they really being objective? And you can't, I like I said, I think that's a dangerous mindset to fall into. So, I mean, the situation is what it is at this point. What's done is done. I do remember an instance a few years ago when I think it was Digital Foundry got the specs unveiling for the Xbox One X when Microsoft was hyping that up. And apparently Microsoft flew the Digital Foundry people out to Seattle to demo it with them and go over the hardware. And Schreier insinuated something like, "Oh, well, Microsoft did pay to fly them there and all this other stuff." When you guys know in the gaming sphere that Digital Foundry is probably the most objective gaming outlet out there because all they're doing is presenting facts.
Shout out to those guys, by the way. Right. They put up with way too much crap.
They really do. And
by comparison to everyone else.
Right. And all they ever do is just prevent facts. This is how this game runs. These are the specs of this console. There's nothing else behind it. So he kind of has a history of doing that over the years. And again, I think it's a really dangerous mindset. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's disingenuous as well.
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem with, because I think with them it's a, how do I put with reviewers, there's the expectation of at least trying to have objective criticism. Like, it may not be, I'm not saying like purely objective, like, like capital O, philosophy, platonic form objective. Talk about that. But I mean, it's more of a, there is a purpose behind this gift. It is to evaluate it and critique. Influencers are not given that for that purpose. I want you to play the games. You're not good about it, so we get promoted. That is the ultimate behind them giving. For a reviewer, though, you're giving them this to be critiqued and hopefully give good promotion. There's not the expectation that's what you're. I hope that you're gonna like it. You're gonna promote it, but they're not gonna. That's not the intended purpose. Like when a promoter gets something, and there's that clip that was floating around on Kind of Funny lately. They're talking to that. There, I don't know what her name. Saying like, "Oh, I don't like PlayStation because it give me free." She was very blunt about saying that too. I don't know if it was intended to be a joke or anything. I'm not gonna pretend like I know, but I'm gonna take her what she face value.
I'm pretty sure she was joking, considering she's an accomplished voice actress. I just want to put that out. I'm 99.9% sure she was being snarky because Greg is a known guy for having liked PlayStation a lot in the past. Like you got to keep context in there.
I mean, it's that idea is that people are like, okay, if you're a promoter though, there is no expectation that you're going to seek something. The expectation is that you play it and you will like it. So there's that. I don't know though. Kind of the gist. So it kind of wraps up that little portion there. We're not gonna get into who was right or who was wrong, on a personal level because it sounds fighting to me. Like funny either. So, anyway, we kind of wrap things up here. As we kind of round up the kind of last little bit. Anything you want to say before we head out?
No, I'm good.
It's nearly here. We're almost there. We've almost made it. 5 weeks, basically. Less than 5 weeks. And hang on. Just hang on. It's been a year, y'all. It's been a year.
All right. So to our outro. Sam, where can you find you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's Tolbert. You can also find what I write on Windows Central, Android Central, iMore. Yeah, come check it out. I still chugging along. Hopefully, I can't say too much right now. I should be able to say something really, really, really cool in a couple of weeks. I'll put that out there though.
Oh, nice.
And Mike?
All right, guys, you could find me on Twitter at the Truth of Mike P, Xbox, PlayStation, pretty much everywhere else at Mike P the Truth. You can also find what I write on Level 1 Gaming at lv1gaming.com. Make sure to keep an eye out for Fame's Twitter feed and spam him whenever I put an article out that you don't agree with.
And I'm Ivan, aka Anchorman V2, Xbox stuff. We're gonna get out of here, get back to gaming and such. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's much appreciated.